Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the Week 11 Monday Night Football Showdown slate on Draftkings. Gonna cover this Monday night game between the Rams and the Buccaneers. Gonna break down this Showdown slate like we always do. We'll start off at the top of the player pool, and we'll just work our way down. We'll hit on all the playable options from top to bottom. Talk about all the guys that I think, we should be considering for our lineups, guys that are actually playable, that are going to be on the field, that are going to see snaps. So we'll do that, and then towards the end of the video, we'll take a look at roster construction, just maybe hit on a few different lineup builds that I like, whether I'm trying to pay up at captain, go cheap at captain, maybe look to the mid-range. I'll be sure to discuss that as well towards the end of the video. But before we do get started, guys, as always, I would appreciate it if you would hit the like button down below. If you are new to the channel, be sure to click the subscribe button as well. I do upload a ton of NFL content to this YouTube channel. I get up, about 3 to 4 NFL videos a week. I will have some more NFL content this week, being that it's the Thanksgiving Day week, or the Thanksgiving Day slate is this week. We'll have a 3-game slate on Thursday for Thanksgiving Day. I will obviously be making a video for that slate. I'll still have videos up for the main slate on Sunday as well, and then I'll have this video up for the Monday night game. Obviously, I probably won't have any videos up for the Thursday night like showdowns. I'll just be playing the 3-game main slate. I probably won't be playing the showdowns, but I will have content up this Thursday for the Thanksgiving Day slate and for Sunday's main slate. So got a ton of NFL content coming out this week. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell, so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos. And if you do really enjoy my videos and if they help you out a lot, it is obviously optional, but for those of you that want to check out more content from me, I have stuff available on Patreon. You can check that out, link down below in the description if that does interest you. But let's go ahead and take a look at this slate and start off at the top of the player pool. So our two quarterbacks in this game are the two most expensive players overall. You got Tom Brady at $11K in the flex, and then Jared Goff at $9,800 in the flex. So looking at the two quarterbacks here, say this in pretty much every showdown video, and I'm going to say it once again. Usually you are going to want to have at least one of the two quarterbacks in just about all your lineups. Rarely do we see winning lineups not have either one of the quarterbacks. A lot of times you'll see both quarterbacks be in the winning lineup. Quarterbacks just project the highest. They have the highest floor out of pretty much anyone on the slate. I'm going to want to try and get both quarterbacks in. I think this is a slate where I do want to try and do that. If I can only choose one, I think I'd give the slight edge to Tom Brady, even though he's a bit more expensive. Brady's actually been pretty good this year in terms of fantasy. He's shown some upside. He has multiple games over 300 yards and multiple touchdowns. Last week against Carolina, 34 DK points, 341 yards, 3 passing touchdowns. Also had a goal line sneak for a rushing touchdown. I mean, he's got three games over 30 DK points this year. He has a game over 20 as well. Brady still has a low floor. He can still fail at times, but on a showdown slate, even if Brady gets, let's say, 16 points here, there's a good chance he still makes the winning lineup. We've seen it happen so much this year where, even though a quarterback may score 12, 13, 14 points and have a really bad game, they can still make the winning lineup just because, quarterbacks still project really high. And even if they have a bad game, that's still, 14 points is still more than some other guys could score. So I want to try and get both quarterbacks in. I think I do give the slight edge to Brady. It's not the best matchup overall for either one of these quarterbacks. I mean, both these defenses, the Rams and the Bucs, really good defensive teams overall. Probably two of the better defensive teams in the league. So it's not like it's a great matchup, but look, it's a single-game showdown slate. We can't really get too picky here. I do like Goff on the other side, even though it is a tough spot against a really good Tampa Bay defense. Goff also has a pretty low floor, can fail at times, but even if he has, kind of a floor game, only gives us 15, 16 points, like there's a chance he still makes the winning lineup. So I really like Jared Goff as well. I think I'm going to want to try and get both of the two quarterbacks into my lineup. I don't see myself playing them at captain. I think these receivers like Cooper Kupp, Evans, Godwin, Robert Woods, Antonio Brown, like these are the guys I'm going to be looking to at captain because I think these guys give us the most upside overall and they are a lot cheaper. But I will definitely be playing both quarterbacks in the flex quite a bit. And if I'm like only playing one lineup on this showdown slate, I think I would want to try and get both quarterbacks into my build. We'll definitely take a look at a few builds that I like towards the end of the video. Talk about who I'm liking at captain. If I want to pay down, pay up, we'll take a look at that towards the end of the video. But moving on to these receivers, so we'll start off with Cooper Kupp, 9,200. I definitely have interest in Cooper Kupp. I think, with him being the most expensive receiver overall, He's not my favorite pay-up option because, I think Robert Woods for 1,000 less on the same team is probably a slightly better play just given the savings. You even have like Mike Evans for a little bit cheaper. I really like Antonio Brown. Like he's only 7,800. Like I think overall, like out of all the receivers, my favorites are probably, when you factor in price, it's probably Antonio Brown number 1, Robert Woods 2, and then Mike Evans number 3. But really you can't go wrong with any of these receivers. They've all been pretty good this year. Cooper Kupp, we know, has a pretty high target floor in this offense. It's going to be Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp leading this team in targets pretty much every week. Kupp got 7 targets last week, got freaking 20 targets week 8 against Miami, had a massive game that week. Kupp still has a pretty high ceiling. His floor is somewhat low. It's kind of similar to Jared Goff's floor. Like if Jared Goff has a floor game, that's obviously going to mean that Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, these guys are also probably having floor games. But let's say Jared Goff throws for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like you could still see a scenario where Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods, has over 100 yards and a touchdown, just because Goff locks onto these guys. We know Kupp's getting 6 to 8 targets, sometimes more every week. Robert Woods getting 6 to 8 targets, sometimes more, pretty much every week. Because Kupp's $1,000 more, I think I do give the edge to Robert Woods. Robert Woods just seems to be a little bit more involved. They use him a lot in these end arounds. They'll let him run the ball some on the end arounds. He got 4 carries week 7 against Chicago. Like it seems like he always just gets those end around touches, especially like when they get down to the goal line too. Like they'll use Robert Woods a lot near the goal line. We know the target volume is going to be there for him. 6 to 8 targets just about every week. Obviously, this Tampa Bay secondary is really good, but we can't really get too picky on a single game showdown slate. I like Robert Woods at 8,200. I think he is my preferred Rams receiver between him and Kupp. I have no problems with either one. I think both are definitely in play. But if I could only play one of Kupp or Woods, I think I would rather take the $1,000 savings, play Robert Woods at 8,200. He would be my preferred guy to go to between Kupp and Woods. It's really hard to predict which one's going to have the big game. Like it's kind of like the DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett thing. Like Kupp and Woods, both great receivers, but you never really know which one's going to go off on a given week. So for me, when you have Woods for $1,000 less, I think I would just rather play him and just hope he outscores Cooper Kupp, which he can easily do pretty much any week. We know both guys are going to get similar targets, so I think I do give the edge to Woods. But then looking at the Tampa Bay receivers, kind of the similar thing. Like now that you have Antonio Brown in the mix, like you just never know what you're going to get when it comes to Evans, Godwin, and Brown. They're all going to see probably 6 to 8 targets. Which one's going to go off though? You don't really know here. I mean, it's a tough matchup. The Rams have a really good secondary. I'm not sure if like Jalen Ramsey is going to shadow one of these guys, if he's going to shadow like Mike Evans or Godwin. I would assume, Ramsey, I think he kind of stays on the outside if I'm not mistaken, so he'll probably be on Evans because Evans mainly just plays on the outside, whereas, Godwin can play in the slot. Antonio Brown can kind of move all over the field. So I guess given that, maybe that's a small bump down for Evans, but Evans has been really good lately. He's been scoring touchdowns. We know he's always a big threat near the red zone. Like he's just a big body. They run, like these goal line fades. They'll throw it up to Evans, just let him go make a play. I do like Evans, and I think I do prefer him over Godwin. Like between Godwin and Evans, I think I would give the slight edge to Evans over Godwin. Godwin is coming in $600 less than Evans. He's also been really good this season, consistently getting, solid volume, 6 to 8 targets just about every week. We know, let's say Brady throws the ball 35 times, like Evans is probably getting 7 targets, Godwin's probably getting 8 targets, Antonio Brown's probably getting 6 to 8 targets, Gronk will get a few, maybe you'll see the running backs get a few. Like we kind of know, there's 4 or 5 guys in this offense that are just going to get targets. It's just a matter of which guy puts up the big game. That's the tough part with this Tampa Bay offense and with these Tampa Bay receivers. Given that, the pricing is how it is with Evans $9K, Godwin $8,400, Antonio Brown $7,800. Again, I like just paying down. I think Antonio Brown's my favorite of the 3 Tampa Bay receivers. He looked really good in that Week 10 game against Carolina. I did watch a good amount of that game. I'm pretty sure Brady overthrew Antonio Brown. They could have connected on like a long touchdown. It was like a 40 or 50-yard touchdown. And Brown was wide open. He had a few steps on the defender. Would have easily been a touchdown if Brady hit him in stride, but Brady overthrew him. So we kind of we kind of ran bad to get only 13 DK points from Brown last week. I did like Brown in tournaments. I did have some exposure to him in tournaments last week. I thought he was a solid play. I think we're going to see, the targets, just the connection in this offense. It's going to rise as weeks go on. Like Antonio Brown is such a talented receiver. He can still be trouble off the field, but when it comes to on the football field, this guy is so talented. He's so, he's just so quick, speedy receiver, makes great plays. He's got great hands. He just always finds ways to get open. Brady will connect with Antonio Brown at some point. Brown's going to find the end zone. Probably could come here, come on Monday night. So between Brown, Evans, and Godwin, at 7,800, I think Antonio Brown's probably my favorite of the Tampa Bay receivers. I like that price on him a lot. You can play him at captain and still fit in, decent guys around Antonio Brown. Like, he's only 11.7 at captain, which is not much when you factor in that, Brady's like 16.5. Even Goff is 14.7. Cooper Kupp's 13.8. Like, Antonio Brown could easily be the highest scoring receiver in this game. He could easily be the highest scoring player overall. At 7,800, he's one of my favorite plays, definitely my favorite Tampa Bay receiver to target. I think if I had to rank the Tampa Bay receivers, the top three, I think it would be Brown number 1, Evans number 2, and then Godwin number 3. All three are for sure in play. I would not fade any of them, but if I'm only playing one lineup, and let's say I'm only going to play one Tampa Bay receiver, I think Antonio Brown is my preferred guy to go to. Just, we're going to get a big game at some point. It seems just he's kind of trending up every week. 5 targets in his debut. Then he got 8 targets last week. Almost had a long touchdown. Brady and Brown are going to connect at some point, and he's eventually going to find the end zone. We're going to get that game where Brown goes for 7 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. Gets like 12 targets. Could come this Monday. Could come Monday night. So I like Antonio Brown the most. I think he's my favorite of all the receivers overall on this slate. Like, just factoring in these pay-up receivers from Brown to Kupp, I think Brown is my favorite overall. But I didn't want to skip over Ronald Jones. He is up here at 8,800. Coming off a big game last week against the Panthers. Had 23 carries for 192 yards and a rushing touchdown. Also had 2 targets, 1 catch for 6 yards. So obviously, Ronald Jones, kind of ran good last week. He got a 98-yard touchdown run. You obviously, if you take that off the board, I mean, my God, he probably has like, let's say, that's like 16 points. If you take that off, plus he doesn't get the 100-yard bonus, so that's like 3 more points gone. I mean, he only finishes with like 8 or 9 points if he doesn't get that 98-yard touchdown run. So I don't want to look too much into last week. Ronald Jones definitely looked like the better back overall. He looked more explosive than Fournette. He obviously got way more volume than Fournette did. But still, on a week-to-week basis, like, we just don't know what this Tampa Bay backfield is going to look like. I think most weeks it's going to be a pretty even split. It's just going to come down to who's playing better. I think Arians is going to ride the hot hand. Given that Jones is 8,800 and Fournette's all the way down here at 4,400, I know Jones had a big game last week, but I think if I'm going to play one of the Tampa Bay running backs, I would just rather pay for Fournette or play Fournette for $4,000 less, because I just don't think it's going to be like Jones got 24 touches last week. Fournette only got 10. I don't think that's going to be the case this week or even moving forward. Most weeks it's going to be a pretty even split, 50-50, maybe 60-40 in favor of Ronald Jones. Fournette's definitely the pass catching back. Like, whenever they get on third down situation, like, Fournette is on the field. So maybe in a situation where they get behind, like, that would definitely be more favorable to Leonard Fournette. We saw him play a lot in the Saints game when they were playing from behind. He got 6 targets in that game. I don't know if this game where they're going to be playing from behind. Right now they are favored by 4 with a 48.5 total. So, game script maybe favors Ronald Jones slightly, but given that Ronald Jones is 8,800, Fournette's 4,400, and I still expect this to be a pretty even backfield in terms of carries, touches overall, like, I just rather would play the guy that's $4,000 less. So between the two Tampa Bay running backs, even though Rojo smashed last week, I think I would rather play Fournette here. Just so much cheaper. Could see just as many touches as Fournette, and you never know with Bruce Arians. He could bench Ronald Jones or something. Like, say Ronald Jones fumbles the ball. I'm pretty sure he fumbled last week and he still played, but we saw, I think it was the Saints game, or I can't remember what game it was, or maybe the game before that against the Giants. Ronald Jones had a fumble, didn't come onto the field until the start of the third quarter. Like, they didn't play him at all in the second quarter after he fumbled. So it's just stupid things like that. Like, you just never know what Arians is going to do with these guys. I think given that Fournette's so much cheaper, I would just rather play him. But then looking down past Antonio Brown, past these pay-up options, you have Josh Reynolds for 6,800, who has really been kind of trending up the last few weeks. Didn't do much at the beginning of the season, but just the last 3 weeks, he's seen 8, 9, and 10 targets, 15, 8, 17 Draftkings points. Obviously, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, the top 2 receivers for this Rams team, but Josh Reynolds has been playing really well. He's been seeing targets. He is 6,800, so it's like they did price him up for, the volume that he's been getting. He's not my favorite play at that price tag. Like, I would just rather play Antonio Brown for $1,000 more. I'd rather play Godwin, Robert Woods. I'm not the biggest fan of Josh Reynolds, but I don't think he's completely out of play. He's someone I'm probably going to be underweight on as a whole. But if I was playing multiple lineups, I wouldn't full fade Josh Reynolds. I think there's still going to be potential for him in this offense. He seems like he's going to get targets most weeks. But he did get priced up to where, he's just priced closely to guys I would rather play over him, like Antonio Brown. So, not the biggest fan of Josh Reynolds at his price point. Gronk, 6,200. Another guy I'm not the biggest fan of at his price point. Very touchdown dependent. If Gronk doesn't score touchdowns, like, he's not going to pay off his price tag. He just doesn't have the upside to go for 8 catches and 100 yards. Like, he just doesn't really do that anymore. He's just not that kind of player. He can, though, catch touchdowns. He's a big threat in the red zone. I think a lot of his touchdowns lately have been in the red zone and, like, near the goal line. He's touchdown dependent. It's 6,200 if you want to play him. I don't think it's the worst play, but I just don't know if the upside's really there for Gronk. I would rather play, AB, Woods, Godwin, these guys, Evans. Honestly, I probably would rather play Josh Reynolds over Gronk. Like, Reynolds and Gronk, I think they're just kind of priced to where I just don't want to pay that price for them when I can just get, the other guys we talked about. So probably those guys are going to be more guys I'm underweight on here. Now, looking down past, the backup quarterbacks, obviously we're not going to talk about, but Darrell Henderson, 5,800. This is another situation, like both of these backfields, Tampa Bay and the Rams backfields, their running backs, like you just never know what's going to happen on a week-to-week basis. So last week, Darrell Henderson got 8 touches. I believe Malcolm Brown got 8 touches as well. Yeah, Malcolm Brown got 8 touches, and then Cam Akers actually led the backfield in touches. He didn't have the best game overall, but he did get 10 touches. So you had 10 touches for Akers last week, 8 for Brown, and 8 for Henderson. Like, I just don't know what to do here. Like, it's literally a 1/3 split. Like, let's say they have 30 rushing plays or 30 rushing attempts. Like, you literally could see 10 let's say they run the ball 30 times, the Rams do. You could literally see 10 carries for Henderson, 10 carries for Brown, and 10 carries for Akers. Like, you just don't know what the Rams are going to do. When it comes to the touchdowns as well, like when they get down to the goal line, last week it was Henderson who scored a touchdown, and then Brown actually scored 2 touchdowns. Akers didn't score at all. Like, when they get down to the goal line, there's no like clear-cut goal line back. It's just going to be whoever's out on the field at the time. Let's say Akers is let's say it's 1st and 10 at the goal line. Akers gets a 9-yard run, gets stopped at the 1. I would assume they keep Akers in to maybe punch it in from the 1, but for all we know, they could take Akers out and then put in Henderson or put in Brown. Like, this backfield is just so tough to project on a week-to-week basis. It looked like Henderson was kind of taking over the backfield, and then just the last few weeks, he's really, he's trimmed down 9 touches, 8 touches. Like, there was a stretch where he, 18, 14, 6, or 17 touches, and, obviously that's not the case anymore. I still think Darrell Henderson's the starter, and if I had to, put my money on anyone in this backfield leading in touches, I think it would be Henderson, but given that he's 5,800, Brown's 5,400, and Cam Akers is only 2,800, I think this is another situation where I would just rather play the guy that's the cheapest. We'll talk about Akers in a second. Between the 3 Rams running backs, I think Akers is definitely my favorite. Malcolm Brown, he had 2 touchdowns last week, but between him and Henderson, I would just rather play Henderson. I still think Henderson has an edge over Malcolm Brown. Obviously Brown can be used in the goal line, and they've used him a lot in the goal line this year. He did score twice last week, but I still feel like Henderson's more likely to lead in touches over Malcolm Brown. So when they're so closely priced, I would just rather go to Darrell Henderson. Tyler Higbee for 4,800, I don't have a problem with as a value play. He's been really disappointing this season. He had a monster year last year towards the end of the year whenever Gerald Everett got hurt. He's had one big game this season, and it was against the Eagles. He had 3 touchdowns, but other than that, like, Tyler Higbee has been really disappointing, under double-digit DK points in every game except one. He's cheap, though. He's 4,800. He's probably going to see anywhere from 4 to 6 targets. He's going to be on the field a good amount. As a value play, I don't have any problems with him. I think I would rather play Leonard Fournette. I think I'd probably rather save salary and play Cam Akers. But Higbee is definitely a value you could look to. I don't think he's out of play by any means. I would definitely rather play him like over the kickers and the defenses. Kickers and defenses are probably going to be off the board for me. Like, there's just so many guys that are cheap. Like, Fournette's only 4,400. I would just rather play Fournette over the kickers and defenses. Cam Akers is only 2,800. I think I'd rather play him as well over the kickers and defenses. Usually you can play one of the two kickers for value, but this doesn't feel like a slate where I really need to go that route. We have some good value that we'll talk about, like Fournette and Akers. You have the Bucs defense for only 3,800, which is pretty cheap for this Bucs defense. I mean, the Bucs do have a really, really good defense. They get pressure on the quarterback. Jared Goff, we know, will turn the ball over. He'll take sacks. He's definitely, had some games where he's turned the ball over multiple times. If I was going to play either one of the defenses, I think I would rather go with the Bucs. But overall, like if I can find the salary, I'd rather just find $600 and get up to Fournette over the Buccaneers defense because I still think Fournette, projects a lot higher than both those defenses do. But yeah, Cam Akers, I do want to talk about as a value. So he did actually lead the backfield in touches last week. He was not very efficient, only averaged 3.8 yards per carry. Didn't get any work in the passing game, but it was good to see that he was involved. He's been involved the last 2 weeks. He's seen 10 touches both their last two games. I did see a report from a beat writer that said, you can factor this how you want, but they said that, as the season progresses, they do expect Akers to kind of take over the backfield. I thought that was going to happen sort of the beginning of the year. We were just going to see Akers come out, be the starter, have a pretty heavy role. Obviously, that hasn't been the case, but later on in the season, beat writers are speculating that Akers is going to kind of take over this backfield and be the starter rest of the season. Will that happen this week? I'm not exactly sure, but I think towards the end of the year, probably weeks 13, 14, we'll see Akers get, probably 14, 15, 16 touches a game, lead this team in touches. And, he did lead the team in touches last week, or he led the backfield in touches. I know he wasn't efficient. I know he didn't score any touchdowns, but I think Akers is my favorite running back to go to between the three Rams guys just because he's so cheap. I mean, he's 2,800. He's going to let you fit in a lot of the other top plays. Like, let's say you go with Fournette and Akers just like in the flex. I mean, those are two really, really cheap guys. That's going to let you pay up for like any one of these receivers at captain. Probably going to let you get in both quarterbacks as well. I think that's really the route that I'm looking to go to on this slate. Like, if I'm only playing one lineup, I think I'd probably have Fournette and Akers in my one lineup if I was only playing one. Just because I think both guys could, see more touches than the starter ahead of them. Like Fournette could easily out-touch Ronald Jones, and I would not be surprised. Akers could easily out-touch Henderson and Brown like he did last week, and I would not be surprised. And volume is what I look for. So between the Rams running backs, I like Akers the most, factoring in price, and between the Tampa Bay running backs, I do like Fournette the most, factoring in price. But once you get past Akers, there's really not much else that I like. I think Gerald Everett is fine to go to. He's actually been pretty involved the last few weeks, even with Tyler Higbee healthy. Still, though, Everett's going to be hard to predict on a week-to-week basis when Higbee is healthy. I would probably just rather play Cam Akers over him. So, yeah, that's really the breakdown of the player pool, at least, my player pool, what I'm kind of looking to, the guys I have interest in for this Showdown slate. So, let's take a look at roster construction just real quick before we do end the video. I talked about how I don't really want to pay up for quarterbacks at captain. This is definitely a slate where I don't see myself doing that. I think these receivers from Antonio Brown to Cooper Kupp, like these are the guys I want to be playing at captain. And I've already said it, Antonio Brown's probably my favorite of all those receivers. I just like his price tag the most. He's the cheapest. I like his upside as well. I think we're going to see a big Antonio Brown game at some point, and it could come here. So I do like Brown a lot at captain. If I'm playing Brown at captain, then I want to pair him with Tom Brady at 11K, just to correlate my lineups the right way. If you're playing a receiver at captain, you always want to make sure to pair their quarterback with the receiver. But obviously, we're going to need some value now since we went with Brown at captain, Brady we paid up for. We talked about how I really like Akers as a value. I really like Fournette as a value. Like if we just play those two guys together, that leaves us over 10K remaining per player. So like we can literally just play whoever we want. We can play Goff and Kupp. We could play Goff and Mike Evans. We could play Goff and Woods and leave salary on the table. Like this is definitely a build that I like quite a bit. I don't know if we'll have salary. Like we could maybe. I probably wouldn't do this, but I guess you could maybe take out Brown at captain and play Cooper Kupp at captain. I don't know. Yeah, you would have enough salary for that. So you could play Cooper Kupp at captain and then still go with Antonio Brown. Or you could play Robert Woods. You do have enough salary for Woods. But yeah, that's a build that I do like a lot as well. Honestly, I think I'd rather just play Brown at captain, make my lineup a little bit more contrarian, leave salary on the table, and just hope that Browns outscores Cooper Kupp, which he could easily do. This is a lineup that I do like quite a bit. If you see spots where you could upgrade, you could obviously do that. Like you could upgrade from Fournette to a 5K player. Like if you want to upgrade from Fournette to one of the Rams guys, you could do that. But Probably not something I would do. If you wanted to upgrade from Cam Akers, you could upgrade from him to the Buccaneers defense, which I guess is fine. But this is a lineup build that I do like quite a bit. I am definitely going to be using like Antonio Brown, Robert Woods, Mike Evans, Kupp, Godwin. Like those are definitely going to be my highest owned captains. This is where I'm really going to be looking to for captains. I don't think I'm going to be going cheap at captain. I normally like to go cheap, but I just don't see the upside for any of these guys. Like I think Fournette does have upside, but he still has a pretty low floor as well. I think it might be a bit risky to play him at captain. Same with a guy like Cam Akers. Like Akers, I don't really want to play at captain, but I think we could easily see him score 8 to 10 points and be in the winning lineup in the flex, which is what I'm looking for. I guess if you were to play Fournette at captain, like that's literally going to let you just play whatever you want. I mean, you could play both quarterbacks. You could get in, Cooper Kupp, Antonio Brown. You still got salary to play like Malcolm Brown or Tyler Higbee, so you could obviously go that route. Or you could downgrade from Kupp to Robert Woods. That would leave you enough to upgrade. You could upgrade from Higbee to Gronk, so that's another build that you could do. So, something like that I like as well. If you want to go a little bit cheaper at captain, I wouldn't mind Fournette. I just think if I'm only playing like a handful of lineups, let's say I'm playing 2 or 3 lineups, I'm probably going to have one with like Antonio Brown at captain, one with Robert Woods at captain, then maybe one with Cooper Kupp at captain. Probably wouldn't go to Fournette, but, if you're playing like 20 max or, 150, then you could definitely have some exposure to Fournette at captain because there's still some, potential that maybe he gets lucky and gets the goal line touchdowns. Maybe they get behind and you see Fournette used a little bit more just because he's kind of their pass down back. Don't think that'll be the case here, but, football is a sport that's pretty hard to predict. You really don't know what's going to happen. You do your best to predict, but at the end of the day, I mean, we saw a couple weeks ago, like the Bucks went out there and got absolutely blown out by the Saints, scored 3 points, got beat by 5 touchdowns. Not saying that's going to happen here, but tough sport to predict, man. So, even though Fournette may be a bit risky, I still think there is a little bit of upside for him where he could be captain viable. But like I said, Antonio Brown, Robert Woods, Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp, I think these are like my favorite captains. Definitely Antonio Brown number 1 for me. I think Antonio Brown is probably going to be the guy that I'm most overweight on this Showdown slate. But yeah, guys, I think we covered everything. Talked about the players, pull from top to bottom, hit on all the playable guys, the guys that I do have interest in. We hit on roster construction as well, how I'm kind of looking to build out my lineups for this Showdown slate. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. I do appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed, hit that like button before you do get out of here. Hit the subscribe button as well. Be sure to click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. And if you have not yet, if you do really enjoy my videos and if they help you out a lot and you want to get more content from me, you can check out what I have available on Patreon. That is linked down below in the description. It is obviously optional, but for the others of you that are interested, the Patreon is linked down below. But best of luck on this Showdown slate, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you as always for supporting the channel. I do appreciate it. Best of luck. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.